Now, moving on to our next topic for this session, how exactly a software is made. So, guys, any software is delivered to the client or the customer in the form of a new build. Now, what exactly is the build? Quite often in IT companies, we hear about this term, which is a build. Quite often we hear that the new build is available for the QAs to test. Now let's try and understand what exactly is a build. In software development, a build is a process of converting the source code files which are present in the developer's local host, the source code file which is yet to be transferred on a particular network wherein quality assurance engineer could reach out to test the features that has been embedded or added into the previous code. So the source code files will be converted into standalone software that can be run on a computer. Now, this standalone software is in itself running on a World Wide Web URL. It is accessible with a URL. The whole code, the whole application, the updated application is accessible by simply hitting the URL in whatever security framework designed by the client. It may be only accessible in the VM provided by the client using the VPN to connect with that VM. So every new feature is delivered in the form of a new build, which is always having the information of the versioning and the newly added points into the new version. But before a standalone software is delivered to the client, it is first delivered to different environments for all stakeholders to play with it. So, guys, there are majorly 4 or 5 environments in the software development phase. Here we are missing one more environment, which is also an important environment, which is oftenly referred as UAT, the user acceptance testing environment. Now, going from the chronological order, development environment will be maintained and will be possessed by the developers, wherein they are going to make changes in the old code and they are going to add the new feature in their own local host machine. And when they are going to host it on a QA environment for the QAs to test, and when the QA build is arrived, the testing will be done, the rigorous testing, the regression testing, retesting of the bugs, identifying the bugs and getting them fixed will all happen in this environment when the build is in this stage of environment. And then one fine day when all the bugs are fixed, the build goes to the staging environment. In this staging environment, we are going to cross check all the validations that we have applied to reproduce all the bugs that we have reported. It is in this stage environment only when we test the basic business functionalities. We are not going to test the application in as rigorous manner that we have tested when the build was in the QA environment. We are only going to test the basic business functionalities are working fine or not after pushing the build from QA environment to staging environment, because many a times the pushing of build gives us a lot of errors. I mean, there might be something in the feature which was present while it was in the QA environment, but it was not there in the staging environment. Why did that happen? Debugging of that will help us get rectify with all the bugs that might occur while again pushing it to the production environment. And even before pushing into the production environment, we are going to push it into the UAT environment first for the validation by the client. Now, client might in the UAT environment stage, client might do two kinds of testing. One is alpha testing, the other one is beta testing. We are going to talk about these two kinds of testing in UAT environment in the later sessions, but for now, it is important for you to understand that there might be a different playground given to the client, and maintaining of a UAT environment is happening in a particular organization. There might be no staging environment and there is only UAT environment in some organization. There might be all five environments in some organizations. I mean, the use of environment on different stages is different in all the companies, but the basic structure is of total of 5 environments, which includes the UAT environment as well. Now, understanding the usability of all these environments by all the parties that are involved in the SDLC process, let's go through with this representation. Let us assume that the production environment is having a production URL which is amazon.in. Now, this amazon.in will be the final URL which will be hit by the general audience around the globe. But while it was in the development environment, the URL was dev.amazon.in. It can be anything else as well, but there will be a development URL to be hit by the developers to reach or to identify their own environment wherein they are going to put all the changes in the previous code. Similarly, the QA environment will be identified as qa.amazon.in or might not be identified, but there will be a different URL given to the QA team where all the new advancements will be tested, and the test execution is only going to happen rigorously on this particular URL. No matter if you are able to run this environment on your system by just using the URL, if you got once, even then there will be securities of VM and VPN which you have to have access of to run this. So anyway, creating this URL is not going to throw any security issues to amazon.in. Similarly, there will be stage and UAT URLs for the respective environments. Of course, the development environment will be used by the developers, and the initial build with new features will be pushed to the QA environment for the testers and the PMOs to test and identify the bugs. Once the bugs are fixed and the bill is moved to the staging server, the double check happens on this server, and there is another UAT environment push of this staging environment bill where the client is going to play, and after fixing all the bugs and approval of fixation by the client, the build finally goes into the production environment and is now available to the end user. I hope by now you are very much clear on what exactly is happening at the back end with respect to environment management.